Hello.
Hey, Yitka, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. All things considered, pretty good. The situation here is at a stage where because I feel Canada kind of closed its borders early when the outbreak was still in its early stages everywhere else. I feel like now we're at a point where kind of at a like a stage where everywhere else in the world the outbreak is more at its later stages, whereas here it's still early. So in that sense, Canada is still kind of being cautious, I find, and most officials are kind of being cautious with their announcements and with their press releases. So they're saying, okay, you guys, and it's also the developing situation in the U.S. and the States, because we border each other. So it's very much uh, we kind of we kind of react, and they the same as how the situation kind of progresses over there, and in a sense, in a sense, that's how we kind of that's how the government here, I find, uh, chooses to kind of progress and deal with the situation here as well. On that note, there's also I find it interesting that there's a lot of medical professionals, Canadian medical professionals who work in the States as well, and recently they are kind of they've been put. Some of them have had to choose whether to work in either place. Choose one place, pick, because what they're doing is they live in Canada, but they go and work across the border in the States, and so officials are kind of understandably kind of concerned, because they say, if you go there, there's an outbreak, it's much worse. We don't want you to kind of catch it and bring it here. So kind of be more kind of in a sense thoughtful uh, in that way. But as I said, it is in that stage, kind of at this point, in the three provinces where it's most widespread are, I suppose, the three biggest provinces, the bigger ones, the more populous ones, which is Ontario, where I am, Quebec, and Vancouver. So these are where the greatest numbers of cases have been recorded. So which kind of puts everything in perspective, pretty much.
Yeah, it
So
makes sense.
yeah, and um I mean, all the other measures are pretty much I don't know, are pretty much common: social distancing, hygiene, uh, trying to avoid kind of every other activity which is very heavily kind of social based, where people have to kind of gather in groups. So which means, like, most businesses, which most kind of social kind of based businesses, are closed, but they still operate, and it's good that they still kind of operate. For example, restaurants still do, most of them do takeaway now. So it's I mean it for them, it's absolutely critical. So of course, and but I suppose most other, say, office-based institutions, uh, have gone to work from home mode, and of course there's and the rest of critical businesses are still operating, of course. So, and there's a big I find there's a big kind of solidarity, uh, kind of. I'm not going to say movement, because it's nothing kind of organized, but it's kind of in the air, and it's everywhere. So that everyone is very kind of uh, it's very very kind of aware and empathetic towards their efforts. So it's
And where
at
can you
seven.
see the
Yeah.
biggest difference between before COVID and now with COVID?
Well, the biggest difference is that I find, well, it is hard in a way that I suppose, in a sense that how human beings are kind of made to kind of stay away from each other and distance themselves to not spread a very kind of a very dangerous disease, and that in a sense it's the hardest part of it all, because I find that everyone humans are very social beings, so they have to kind of be close to other people, so that's I find is the hardest part. It's in a sense uh, it's very emotionally and mentally and psychologically kind of challenging in that sense. So I that's basically, I speak for myself as well. It's the hardest because uh, every uh, every social activity is put on hold, but it's a great way to still connect. It's a great way to kind of, I mean, just last week we connected with my school buddies, and we had a uh, nice little board game, virtual board game kind of session, virtual board game day, if we can call it a day. And it was great. It was a laugh. Loved it. And it's a change from the everyday, because sometimes when you're trying to kind of structure the day to even even from home, it can be kind of daunting and lonely. I love kind of being active outdoors, very much so. And because I'm very kind of, the outdoors for me is for physical activity and social activity and everything. So if
Yeah.
I find myself indoors, it is a lot slower. So I'm kind of getting used to that slower pace and trying to kind of go out as much as I can.
How is it restricted going outside?
It's not, so it's restricted by any means. Just be aware of and be compassionate and be thoughtful to others and yourself, and basically just follow the common rules, and the rules of thumb, and they're pretty much everywhere, so you can't miss them. And they put up signs on just on the elevators here in the building I live in, so they're everywhere. You can't really miss them. Basically, that's the whole point, and there's no kind of restrictions as in when we can kind of be outside and when to kind of, there's no kind of lockdown in that sense. If you need to go out, of course, be active and go out. But if you need to go out, then kind of be active in a sense that, be active by yourself. Don't just go for groceries, walk your dog, or do kind of activities. Go for a run, go for a jog, go for a nice long walk. But try and stay, if you're staying close to people, put a mask. Or if you feel uh, that you need to be closer than 2 meters from people, of course keep a mask. uh, if of course, wash your hands with sanitizer, or with just washing with soap, or just washing liquid for, I think it's 20 seconds at least. So it's very much, if you need to go outside, try and don't go to your friends, don't go to I don't know, to your your boyfriend, girlfriend. You try and kind of stay. If you don't live together, try and kind of stay away from social calls from everyone, pretty much.
Yeah. Mhm.
It is kind of, it is daunting, and it is very much of a challenge, but still.
And what about government and people who are unemployed or in any other situation of need? Does the government introduce any support to these people?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because yes, the government here is they, from as far as I know, or from what I know, and in my own case as well, the government has put up two two different funds, or at least the federal government, because here the levels of government are federal and provincial and municipal. So there's three levels of government. So the federal government has put up two different funds, and one is called EI benefits, which is kind of like which means employment insurance benefits, and this is a this is very much of a employment insurance is a mandatory. Uh, uh, we can say it's a mandatory insurance or mandatory tax, which uh, people pay, employees pay, and employers pay when they're when they're during employment, basically when they're in a condition of employment. And what it does is it helps people who are basically unemployed or who've lost their jobs. So that's it. That one covers unemployed people. And there were kind of the moment that fund opened, there was a big rush of applications. So
I can
uh,
imagine.
a really big rush. There were, like, I'm not sure of the actual numbers, but that there were probably on the very first day there were like a million people, kind of, or maybe in that range, applying. And of course there's lots of people who have not just lost their jobs, but who are kind of in that kind of unsure, uncertain time where they don't know if they'll be back to work again. So, or they're working from home, but everything is slowed down a lot. So for me, and the other fund, or the other measure, financial measure that the government has instituted, is it's called the Emergency Response Fund, the Emergency Response Benefits, Emergency Response Benefits. That's what it's called, and that is basically for people who haven't applied to the previous one. So, and that basically constitutes a fixed monthly payment to everyone who has had an income of $5,000 or more in the previous fiscal year. So if anyone has had more, if anyone has made more than $5,000 in income in 2019, they can apply for that. And
I see.
a lot of people, I find probably a lot of people have applied for that as well. I'm one person who's applied to that, and I find it is a helping hand. It's not. I mean, it's not gonna pay for everything, because I'm not expecting it to pay for everything, but it is a helping hand in the end. And and it seems the government will be kind of will be renewing that for at least 4 months. So that will be kind of, people can apply for it uh, up to 4 months. So it is a very kind of a very good helping hand, you know.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much for telling me about the situation in
well,
Toronto.
it's my pleasure. Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So thank you and bye bye.
Bye. Take care.
Bye.